And by the way, I think we could win the next general election.
Hello there. Today I am joined, as you can see, by the leader of the meteorically rising Advance UK, Ben Habib. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on.
It's a pleasure to have you here because I think the country is crying out for new political leadership, and it's not coming from anywhere else as far as I can see. Now, my first question is, how is the party doing after the official packed to the rafters Advance UK launch in Newcastle just, what was it, 13 days ago?
Yeah,
That must seem
27th.
like a lifetime to you.
You're right. The amount of activity that's going on actually means that things that happened just a week ago feel like they happened centuries ago. But 27th of September was our launch. And it was a great event. I don't know if you watched it, Jeff, or you didn't come to it. No, I don't think you came,
Yes, I
did you?
did. I was
You did,
there.
you did, you
We had a
did, you
chat
did, you did.
afterwards.
Forgive me, because there's just so much going on. There you go. It's
Yeah.
like, there's so much going on. And so I thought it was brilliant. You tell me what you thought. As you say, it was packed to the rafters. We had according to the QR codes that we swiped, 463 people came to the launch, which is not bad, and from all
Not
across
bad
the
at all.
country, including Northern Ireland, Scotland, all the way up from Southampton, etc. So, big pull of people, and some excellent speeches. We had that wonderful young lady, Kindell, who spoke about how she's being, or they're trying to indoctrinate her at school. 17-year-old young lady
Mm.
who spoke, I thought, brilliantly well. Fearless. I did warn her afterwards that she ought to focus probably on her studies, but she doesn't mind. She's concerned so much about the country that she's coming forward. And that, by the way, without wishing to move on rapidly, is something I'm seeing much more of. People used to say, well, it's you lot who care about patriotism in the country. You're all, 50 plus. But actually, Kindle is 17, and we're seeing many, many more young people. I don't know if that's your experience, Jeff, recognizing the plight of the country and wishing to get involved and do something about it. And so I thought it went very well. Membership numbers have gone on going up since then. It slowed a bit, the increase in membership numbers, but that's only to be expected because we made such a push towards, getting to 30,000. And now we're getting on with our Electoral Commission application to be registered as a party. We've had some exchanges with the Electoral Commission, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm not worried about rushing that, because in the meantime, we're building our ground campaign. We're getting lots of merchandise out to our 37,000 members that we've got. They're already starting to door knock, put leaflets through doors, organize local events. We've got lots of great spokespeople in the party now, which we're going to be sending across the country to not just me. I mean, I'll go obviously wherever I can, but get other people going out and proselytizing, recruiting more members, getting our message out there. Um, and yeah, we're almost, by the way, Jeff, treating it like we're in a general election campaign now. And there's a reason we have to do that beyond the other parties, and that's because mainstream media have sought to cancel us. So we've got to go over the mainstream media, and I'm really referring to GB News and Talk. I haven't been on since we effectively launched Advance, and they've decided to circle round reform and protect reform from any insurgency that we might,
Mm.
launch. So we've got no option but to go over the media and get straight to the people. But thankfully, because we've got 37,000 members, we can do that. And as I say, we're
Yeah.
kind of going into general election campaign mode.
Now, that's really important. You've got to hit the ground. In fact, I would argue that most parties, if they're successful, are always in campaign mode for an
Yeah.
election. Nowadays, especially with social media, as someone was pointing out, the Tories have not been given a chance to lick their wounds, regroup, think up new policies. They're expected to hit the ground with social media straight away with all their policies and everything. Now, I will
Yeah.
say there's a link in the descriptions box below where you can join Advance UK. Okay, everyone? So please do join. Let's get that number over 40,000 as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Now,
our aim, by the way, Jeff, is to get to 1 million
yeah,
members by 2029. If we get to 1 million members by 2029, we will win the general election. Come hell
yeah,
or high water, whatever the mainstream media wish to do, we will win the general election. And if the people believe in our message, then please join. There's no point just watching this podcast and thinking, oh, that was
mm,
fun, and doing nothing about it. If you really worry about the country as I do, as I know you do, Jeff, if you worry about it and you believe that Advance UK would be the country's redemption, then please join. Do it.
yep, absolutely. Like I always say, subscribe to my channel. Well, I'm not saying that
Yeah,
today. I'm saying join Advance UK.
thank you.
Now, one of the things that sort of did impress me was when the Newcastle event was up and running, just very shortly beforehand, you got the event cancelled from the hotel. Now, most people in that situation would have thrown their toys out of a cot and got all sort of on their high horse and all the rest of it. But you were different. You did this in a very grown up manner. Can you just take us through that, your sort of thought processes, or what actually happened?
So we booked the Crown Plaza Hotel. I think we booked it in August, a long time before the event, knowing that we were going to hit 30,000, so getting ready for our launch. And we made it plain to them that we're a political party and they should look us up. And we gave them the website address and we asked them if they were happy with us and so on. And they said yes, absolutely. And we did ask them, will you cancel us? And they said no, 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 no chance. We're most welcome. And then 6 days beforehand, I got a call from one of our representatives in the Northeast who said they've just literally just cancelled us. And so I said, what's the telephone number of the manager? And I called him and I was, upset. And I wanted to let him know that I was upset. But he spoke first, and I could tell instantly with his voice that he had a broken voice, that you get when you're suffering
Mm.
serious concern. And he told me that he'd been threatened and they'd had people tipping up at the hotel saying that there'd be, demonstrations and his staff would be in trouble if they hosted the event and so on and so forth. So my heart kind of melted for him because, I think it's just the natural human response. And I don't think it was his fault. It is very sad that there are elements in our society who would seek to shut down legitimate voices on the political stage. I would never try to do that to anyone, by the way. No one in advance would
Mm.
do it. One of the things we stand for, as you know, Jeff, is freedom of speech.
Yeah,
And for all those pearl clutching lefties, it's also a part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights for us to get together and speak and so on. But anyway, the Crown
yep,
Plaza cancelled us. And you're right. I could have gone on X and I could have done videos saying what a bunch of XXX
yeah.
they are, and expletives to describe how I
Mm.
felt about them. But instead, we just found a new venue as fast as we could. It wasn't easy. Many places said they could take us, and then when they found out that we were Advance UK, they cancelled it. In the short period, between when we were
Yeah,
cancelled by the Crown Plaza and our actual launch. But then we got at that restaurant which you came to, Avika, I think it's called, and they were brave enough
yep,
to take us in. And there were no counter protesters. It was all very peaceful and all very jovial, and there was a carnival like atmosphere, wasn't there? As so often is the
yeah.
case.
Yeah. Well, actually, Ben, before you arrived, because your train was delayed, there was a counter protest outside up the road, but they were counter protesting UKIP, who were doing something at a memorial statue. So I went and did a quick live stream of them, and all the police were holding them back. And when they let them go, I thought they were going to pile down to the restaurant, but they didn't. They went off towards the UKIP thing. So it was probably just as well that the venue was late because they didn't know where we were, which was really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and I
So,
and it all went off peacefully. And
yeah,
all
yeah,
I ever want, and I'm sure you want, is for these things to be peaceful, for everyone
yeah,
just to be able to talk. And there was no far right, racist, xenophobic talk at our event. We just laid out our mission statement in effect, and the next steps that the party was going to take in order to give effect to its mission statement. Nothing
yeah.
remarkable about, our message.
No, not at all. Not I didn't see any of that at all. It was very it was really a really nice crowd of people that I was chatting to.
Yeah.
Um, You said earlier on about the Electoral Commission, and I was going to ask you exactly those questions. Have you any idea how long it's going to take? Is there any time scale here, or
No,
what?
I don't think so. They take whatever time they feel they need to take to scrutinize our
Yeah,
application. They've made some comments on it. We've addressed those comments. And I did prompt them for a chase up a couple of days ago for a response.
right.
They haven't come back to me. But,
Yeah,
we put a lot of thought into our constitution, as you know, Jeff. And we made sure that our financial statement that you have to file alongside the constitution, together with your financial plans and how you're going to manage the parties, we made sure that was all tickety boo a long, long time ago.
yeah,
And we put it all together under advice from lawyers. So it was literally absolutely ready to be filed when we hit 30,000. And I hope the effort that we made to get it right will be rewarded by a speedy application process.
yes.
But I'm not worried if it takes a while. We're still going to go on making policies, canvassing, getting our ground game going, etc., etc. We're not going to slow
Yeah.
down just because the Electoral Commission is taking a bit of time.
Yeah, because I looked into Corbyn's Your Party, and they announced in mid July. I don't know whether they'd already put the application in. I'm just saying it was announced in mid July with lots of, we think something, people were commenting, we think this party is going to start. But it actually became an official party on September the 30th. So it took
Oh, did
them a
it?
couple of months. So yeah,
Wow.
it's September. I checked the Electoral Commission website. I'm so boring like that. Yes. Now, the big question is, when you get the tick in the box from the Electoral Commission, will you be holding a celebration party?
Well, that's a good question. I hadn't thought about it, but I will now think about it.
Yes. I want an invite.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be there, Jeff, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And just I don't know whether you know this, but I actually had a look at the Electoral Commission website, and there have been this year since January 31 new parties registered properly by the Electoral Commission as parties. So that's quite a lot, isn't it, in
It
just
is a
10
lot.
months?
And you
Yeah,
know,
it just
we're the
shows you.
seventh
But
largest. We're the seventh largest party now, Jeff, within
yeah,
2 or 3 months.
yeah, all these other parties, by the way, are local parties, so they're set up for counties or sort of independent groups of independents, not so much for general elections, but
National
more local
politics. Yeah.
elections. So yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, but with that, now to be honest, a lot of people, I do a lot of these talks with Richard. I do them on my own, and lots of the comments are talking about, oh, you're always pushing advance, you're just splitting the vote, or it's personal from Ben or something. But I know that getting involved at any level in this murky world of politics can be draining, both financially and emotionally. So I'm wondering if you woke up sweating some nights, hoping that 30,000 people would not sign up to Advance UK, so sparing you the pain and the 100 grand gap in your bank balance right now.
Well, it's an interesting point you make. And I did reflect on the fact that if I gave this party a go and I failed to get to 30,000 members, then at least I would be able to rest knowing I'd given it a shot. What I would never have been able to forgive myself for is if I never tried. But
Mm,
trying and failing, I would have felt vindicated. People like Farage would have looked at it and go, "Well, he failed," but I couldn't care less. I would have tried. As it happens, I've succeeded, and so do
mm,
have in some people's eyes, potentially the unenviable task now of having to lead the party through to the general election and
yeah.
winning it. And by the way, I think we could win the next general election. I know that sounds really cocky. I don't mean it to come across as being cocky, but if we've gone from naught to 37,000 in such a short period of time, and the momentum continues, and if the other parties continue, particularly obviously Reform, continues to put out policies that don't work, recruit people that self evidently don't represent what people believe reform to represent, if it keeps infecting itself like that and being daft, it could very easily lose its pole position. And the Tories don't seem to be able to recover, and that could leave Advance UK literally in pole position.
Mm. No, I would agree with you. Um, Now, for the people out there, maybe some people haven't heard or they haven't really looked into you because there are a lot of reform people who haven't looked into you because they're focused. But for them, what are Advance's unique selling points? Why Advance UK? What's it all about?
So, if I told you about our mission statement, with which I'm sure you're familiar anyway, but if I were to talk you through it, at one level, you think that's entirely unremarkable. Every political party must be practicing these aims. But the truth of the matter is that none of them are, including reform. Even reform doesn't really stand for what we stand for. But in a nutshell, what we stand for is the nation state of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland in all its parts and for all its people. So anyone who's prepared to put a border down the Irish Sea or to treat different parts of the country in a different way and have a gradation of British citizenship, well, they're not for us. And all the other parties basically fail at that first test, including reform. Farage is on the record saying he's happy with a united Ireland. Secondly, we stand for our Christian constitution as distinct. We obviously support our Christian culture, but our Christian constitution is, in a sense, more important because it reinforces the fact that we are a Christian country. And so we stand for that. We stand for freedom, freedom from the tentacles of the state, freedom of speech, the promotion of individual rights, the ability to eke out our lives in the way that we wish to eke them out, not under the direction of an overbearing state. We stand against the indoctrination of our children so that they are brought up actually to understand where their modern contextual position in the United Kingdom, rather than being told that their forefathers were slave traders and they can choose whichever sex they want, and if they're white they suffer from privilege, and if they don't recognize that privilege they're racist. All this kind of indoctrination has to stop. We stand for democracy, so making sure that all these unelected bodies that so infected our democratic process are removed, and international law is taken out of the fabric of British society so that
Mm.
our elected officials can be held to account, and that they have the necessary power to do what they wish to do in order to justify being held to account. And then lastly, we stand for the old fashioned, quaint notion that everyone should be equal under the law. And as you and I know, again, that's not the way the country is being governed at the moment.
Mm.
Progressive discrimination infects our criminal justice system as well. So we stand for nation state, freedom, democracy, and equality under the law. And you might say that's not a USP. But if you were to examine every other party, and I just showed you that all of them fail at the first hurdle, but if you were to examine every other party, including reform, they don't meet any of our criteria. They fail on every step of our mission statement.
Mm. Yes. No, I tend to agree with that, and that's sort of what draws me to Advance UK. Now, one of the things you said earlier is you've got a lot of people all helping building the policies, and they're going to go out speaking and all this sort of thing because the party needs to push on a wide front. You've got to do it. You can't. It's not a one-man band.
No.
How is the college building at the moment? And what are the numbers now in the college, and how many are you hoping to recruit?
So I think we're at around 30 members at the moment. I haven't counted recently, but I think we're at around 30. We've got some great people in the college. And having got this quorum of people, we are now beginning the very serious business of policy making. Um, I do want the college to get to between 50 and 100 people. But having got a quorum, I'm in no hurry, or we're in no hurry to get to 50 or 100. We'll make sure that we grow, um, in a solid way. We get the right people into the college.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing that we've been very keen on for the college is to make sure that they come from all walks of life, both socially as well as in terms of discipline, so that we've got people from public sector, defence, armed forces, police, judiciary, finance, etc., so that we've got the minds required to create the policies that will save the country.
Yeah, it's quite funny you should say that because that's really important. When at the end of I think it was the 2019 election, I caught a House of Commons library report on the sort of the who the winners, who the new MPs were, and what they did, what their history was, and all of that. Turned out about 7% of them had ever picked up anything heavier than a pencil, and most of them were lawyers. And you
Yeah,
sort of look at it and you're thinking, this was so biased towards one thing, and you're just wondering how. No wonder they come out with some of their rubbish policies. That's all I can say.
yeah. No,
So it
you're
is
right.
really important. Mm.
Yeah, and I think what more generally the country is going through is reacquainting itself with the notion of responsibility. We're used to parliamentarians over decades having become really dumbed down, but now that we're taking back control, now that the country's facing the kinds of problems it's facing, which are really massive. I think people are beginning to the quality of individual getting politically engaged is going up. We're not just
Mm.
getting, university leavers who did PPE and then worked in the back office at the Conservative Central Office and then went and became MPs. We're getting people who've done stuff. And I think if there's only one thing Advance achieves, and that is bringing together some really capable people and getting some of them into Parliament, we would have done a huge service for the country just
Yeah.
in that alone.
No, you're absolutely right. That would be a big achievement because at least people with knowledge would be sort of talking about this stuff
Yeah.
instead of coming together with loads of stuff that is palpable rubbish and then throwing it at the House of Lords and hoping that the people they've appointed are going
We'll
to
see it
change
through.
everything to make
Yeah.
it workable. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things, the big problems we've got, as we know, is the immigration problem, and repatriation, or whatever you want to call it, is now the big word. But it's turning into a bidding game. And who do we believe? It seems to be getting, I'm gonna repatriate more than you, and no, I'm going to even Restore Britain has come in with a proposal today. I gather I haven't had a chance to look at it, but it just seems that everybody's now doing it. Are we in danger of over egging this, or
No, I
or
think it's
aren't we doing
terrific.
enough?
I think it's terrific that the pace is being set effectively by people like us, and the other parties are feeling the pressure to respond. And that's pulling the center of gravity of acceptable political discourse over to our position. And I think it makes it even Starmer is beginning to recognize he's got to do something about it. The Tories are further to the right than Reform is on some of these issues. So we're yanking the whole field over to our position. And which is great, Jeff. That means we're doing our job. Even without having won an election, we're doing our job. Let it
Yes, and
become a
it's
kind of
funny.
bidding war. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite funny, isn't it, that Nigel Farage did a couple of months ago say that the Tories would end up to the right of his position, if you remember. He did
Yeah.
actually say that. So, yeah. So I find that very interesting. Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. We do need to keep pushing. And if we want to rescue or salvage, not salvage, I don't want to salvage anything. I want to repair things. I want
Yeah.
to get things back to how they should be. And
Yeah.
salvaging
Get the
isn't
country
enough.
back on its feet.
Yeah, yeah, in more ways than one. I mean, we've just destroyed everything as far as I can see, from energy to agriculture to industry, and
Everything. Yeah.
and it's just getting worse, especially with Ed Miliband in charge of one certain area of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now just sort of moving on to more international affairs, Donald Trump has pulled a bit of a blinder with Gaza and Israel and put the whole woke pro Palestine movement into a bit of a bind. And I wonder how many pro Palestine marchers we'll see this weekend, and if any pro Palestine action types turn up to be arrested. Now, that would be a stupid thing to do. And
Well, if they do
from the
march,
river,
but they should be carrying pictures of Donald Trump, shouldn't they? He's
Yes,
just
absolutely.
delivered them
The
peace. Yeah,
peacemaker. Yeah,
yeah.
because it really does annoy me when we hear all these chants about from the river to the sea and the 48 and all the rest of it. And for those people out there who may have heard of the term the 48, it just means that after 1948, there was a lot of area called Israel that they think should be called Palestine, and they want the 48 back, and that's where that comes from. But it's just annoying when they do this with the obvious genocidal undertones to it all. And it's about time it stopped. And with Trump doing what he's done, don't you think they should stop this now and start
Well,
maybe, I don't know, why don't they get out there and protest for a proper grooming gang inquiry?
I mean, these protests. I've always found these protests, these so-called pro-Palestinian, effectively anti-Israeli, and in my view, the undertones of it are also anti-British. There's a kind of antipathy towards the country, the United Kingdom itself, at these marches. And so I've always found them offensive, these marches, and I do hope they stop. And I do hope that if people really believed that they wanted peace in Palestine and that's why they were marching, I hope now they will also recognize where the peace came from, who delivered it. But I bet they won't. You know, it strikes me as really interesting that mainstream media over the last 24, 48 hours has all been trying to paint Trump out as a self-promoting individual seeking to get the Nobel Peace Prize. It's as if he's done all of this just to get the Peace Prize. But actually, before he came into office, he said he was going to end wars. Do you remember? And
Yeah,
he
oh, yeah,
prevented the Pakistan-India war from escalating. He brought that under control. He brought Israel and Iran under control. That could easily have expanded into a regional war. He managed to get Israel to apologize in effect to Qatar. He's he's been a force for good in bringing
yeah,
peace to the globe, and we should all want peace. We should all want the end of bloodshed,
yeah.
and so let's hope that the peace holds.
Yes, yeah, that's yeah, we must hope that the bloodletting will stop. But what gets me is there are people on social media claim it was Keir Starmer what done it because he threatened Israel, as if Netanyahu is worried about this particular Labour government. And as you say, Trump missed out on the Nobel Peace Prize, which was handed out today to Venezuelan politician in hiding Maria Corina Machado. Now, they've come under a bit of attack from the White House because the White House, or maybe not Trump himself, but maybe some of his officials, are saying that the committee in Oslo, in the Norwegian capital, that decides these things, were putting politics over peace. And having read up on Machado, she does appear to be a very brave woman for doing what she's doing in Venezuela. But the Nobel Committee's job is to award the prize to the person or persons who have done the most to promote fraternity between nations. And the question
Yeah,
for me would be, has Machado actually done that? She may be brave within her country, but does it fulfill those requirements? I don't know.
it doesn't sound like it. I don't know much about her. It came from nowhere.
Mm,
That
yeah.
that is for her. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, she's been in hiding in Venezuela for trying to um, bring sort of freedom and freedom of speech and things like this to her country. But is that fraternity between nations? I don't know. And the big
no,
question
well, it
really is,
isn't.
what are
Yeah.
all those? What are all those career protesters who have gone from climate? Well, actually, they went from BLM, climate, then to Gaza. What are they going to go on next? And my bet is slavery reparations in support of Lenny Henry. I reckon that's where all that's going.
Yeah, well, we'll speak out against that.
Oh, definitely.
It's
Yeah,
such a stupid argument. All the slaves who suffered at the hands of the slave traders are dead, and all the slave traders are dead. There are no
yeah,
reparations due. Many the descendants of those who were traded are now in really fantastic countries, um, with the countries from which they
mm,
came not doing so well.
yeah, yes, definitely. And then we've got Libya. Slave trading is going on in there today. What are we doing about it? What are these
Nothing.
people arguing about for that? Nothing. They're not interested in that because they're
We've
not
got
likely to get
white
any
slave
money out of
trade.
it.
We've got white slave trading going on in this country. What was the
Yeah.
grooming gangs if it wasn't a form of slave trade? What was the
Yes.
rape
Yes.
gangs? It was the abuse. It was the subjugation of
Mm.
underage white
Yep.
girls and to be abused. That is the
Yeah.
ultimate in slavery, isn't it? It's
Yeah. I agree.
disgusting. Yeah.
I
We,
said once, I did argue in a video that they should bring those slave laws against those people as well as the sexual side of it as
abuse
well.
charges. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I want to talk about digital ID because it seems to be going very well for the government at the moment, and we're now hearing of plans that they're going to roll it out to anyone aged over 13. So what do you reckon to that?
Well, it's a power grab by the state. Every time it's an old playbook that they're using. It's a well-established playbook. There's a problem. Instead of addressing the problem, they use the problem as an excuse to expand their power, to take away our liberties. And the notion here is that Starmer's putting forward is that somehow through digital ID, he'll be able to control illegal migration. But the whole point is that illegal migrants have no ID papers of any nature whatsoever. And that hasn't prevented them from going about their business in this country or being put up in four-star hotels, etc. And controlling those of us who are legitimately here doesn't help end the illegal migration trade either.
No.
The whole thing is just nonsense. And so we know where this is. This is straight out of, Starmer keeps talking about people who believe in democracy as far right, but actually he is far right because he's stripping
Yeah.
us of our civil liberties and putting the knee of the state on our neck.
No, I agree. And I just think that all that'll happen is they'll be handing out a hotel room, a mobile phone, and a UK digital ID to all the illegal immigrants. They'll get one
Yeah.
as well on their phone that we give to them, and
And
that
then bring
will
them into
then speed
society.
up. That would exactly it. That was how they speed up the process of keeping them here.
Yeah.
And they'll put in the digital ID, whatever these guys tell them. Oh, that's your name. That's where you come from. There's your digital ID. It's all confirmed. It's all official. You know, I just can't see the use of them at all in this.
It's like this one in,
Yeah,
one out policy, which is not one in, one out. It's
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 not.
one in, one out, and then one more in, which is two in, one
Yes,
out, which is the same as one in. Are you with me?
yes. Oh, yes. I can do maths. I
Yeah.
was given a classical education. Given a grounded education back in the 70s where we learnt how to add up. Yeah, and I think that's bypassed people today. So yeah. Now, on November the 18th, all company directors, for example, will have to be given, will have to confirm their identity. And this is part of the process. It's not actually a digital ID, but it is digitizing their ID as company directors. And they have to do it through a government portal. And it'll affect me as a company director as it will affect you and many others.
It's
But will
already
it stop
affected
the
me.
boats?
No.
Has it? Oh, right. No, it hasn't. But
It's
will it
already
stop the
affected me.
boats?
No, of course it won't. It won't, and it won't make a damn bit of difference. You had to identify yourself as a company director anyway. There are processes you had to go through in order to be registered at a
Mm.
company's house, and your address and so on. And I don't know what they're thinking. It's just straight grab of power. And an advanced UK government is going to repeal all this nonsense. We're going to go back
Good.
to, we're going to just get rid of all this. I'm trying to not to use an expletive, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now, some people are putting out the idea that no digital ID will mean going to prison. And I'm not so sure they'll need to do that because the idea is that having no ID will make your life almost unlivable. The sheer necessity of having one will be the prison. But how
Yeah.
far and how deep will it go? And I think it's up to us to stop it even. Mission creep will always be there and it will end up controlling little bits more of your life every single day that passes. Every little law,
Absolutely.
every new law will have it. Every new service will involve digital ID. It's scary. Yeah, Keir Starmer's a bit of a stinker, isn't he? I was going to say the W word, just like you did, Ben,
I
to
only
the
said it
world at
because
the
the
last
crowd.
Unite the Kingdom rally.
I was just letting the crowd vent because they wanted to say
Absolutely. Yeah.
it.
No, it's great to see. It did grab the headlines a bit, that did.
Yeah, it
Well,
did. Well, I loved
amongst
it
the
because
people,
yeah, I loved it
yeah,
because
amongst the
I
people
looked
that
up.
allowed you to.
I looked
Yeah,
at the crowd on my left who started saying it. Keir Starmer's a, Starmer's a W blank blank ER blank 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 ER. And then I thought, well, do I try and talk over them or do I just roll with it? And I thought, well, it's a perfectly sensible sentiment. So let's roll with it and let's get the
absolutely.
crowd going,
Lovely. It was fantastic to see. I was watching that, yes. Now, another bit of news that caught my eye today is the man, Hamit Koskan, who was found guilty of an offence after burning a Koran outside the Turkish embassy and was attacked by a man with a rather large knife for his troubles. And he's had his conviction overturned. So, what worried me that we were entering a situation where causing offence would be the crime, especially if someone attacked you for causing offence. And that was the argument that seemed to be used in the official, in the first, when he got convicted. So I'm really glad that this has been overturned. At least it brings back some sense to this law.
I agree. It's absurd that he was ever charged with anything. As offensive as some people might find burning the Quran or indeed burning any book, it is not worthy of going to prison. It is an absurdity. And we've got to get a grip of our own predilection for wishing to not offend anyone. It's an absurd view for government to take. We should be allowed to offend each other. We should be allowed to call each other names, as long as we're not inciting violence against each other.
Mm.
Everything else goes.
Yeah. Being offended should never be factored in as some sort of defence in any criminal act someone gets up to in response to being offended, which seems to have
Absolutely.
happened in this case. If someone had burnt a Bible in a chapel in front of loads of people and did what he did, and the Christians would be expected just to put up with it, shake their heads and bemoan him and walk away. If someone got out a bread knife, they'd go to jail. I'm sure of it.
Oh, absolutely. And the Christians
Yeah.
would just
So
shake their
yeah,
heads and walk away. We know that. There'd be no violence.
yeah.
I wanted to. I was
No,
going to
you're
go. I was
absolutely right.
going to. I was going to take a Bible and burn it on the street and see what the reaction would be, but I couldn't bring myself to burn a Bible, so I haven't
Mm.
done it. But I bet there'd be no reaction. I could stand in the middle of Piccadilly and I could burn it, and I could tell everyone I'm burning a Bible, and people would just look at me and go, "This is a weirdo," and move on, and there'd be no repercussions. You and I
Mm.
know that, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, the police would probably come along and help you. Yes. Now, we're sort of nearing the end, but what I want to really ask now is what's a really important question for people like the pink protesters, the ladies in pink who go out to these protests and were at Tower Hamlets the other night, fighting, being called far right and all the rest of it. The question is, do you think the government is doing enough to deal with past and present grooming gangs? I don't,
No,
because I've heard nothing from the government about it
no.
over the last few weeks.
No, Elon Musk has gone quiet because there's only a certain amount of noise he can make, and the government has been let off the hook. They haven't done their inquiry, and I hope Elon Musk re-engages because it was him. Do you remember? It
Mm.
was the pressure that he brought that
Yeah.
got this whole thing going again. Where are parliamentarians? Where's the opposition? Well, Kemi made a good fist of it at the time, but she needs to be saying, "Where's the inquiry? What's going on?" And the
Where was the
inquiry.
talk about these inquiries during the last set of party, conferences?
Yeah, no mention.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've got to keep the pressure on because if we don't, it just becomes, oh, they've accepted it. We can all forget about it. It doesn't
Move
matter.
on. Yeah,
Their children don't matter. You know, it's just ridiculous that we've got to this stage. It's a national shame as far as I'm concerned. But
it
there
is.
you
I
go.
think it's. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a national tragedy that young girls, some of whom were effectively prostituted by people in whose care they were, how come
yeah.
they haven't gone to prison? You know?
Mm. No, I agree. I think that's why they're trying to sweep it all under the carpet. Hope the problem goes away,
Yeah,
which
awful.
is not good enough. Yeah. Now, Ben, is there any pressing point you wish to make at this stage?
No, just to reiterate, the country ain't going to fix itself. Advance can't fix it without you. The solution to the country's problems lies with the people of this country. If you want to bring the country back to a position of safety, please join Advance UK. We've got to have the biggest proverbial army in the country so that we win that general election and we save the country.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you very much, Ben Habib.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me on.